High temperatures, shifting rainfall seasons, erratic and low rainfall patterns, dry spells, droughts and drying up of rivers will lead to water insecurity in the sub-Saharan Africa, giving rise to shortage of food and a number of vector-borne diseases threatening livelihoods for the continents. South Africa, for example, is facing a serious crisis of water shortages in one of its largest cities, that is Cape Town, and forecasts point to the fact that Cape Town will run out of water by June 2018. A decimated maize crop in the heart of Rushinga, Mudzi and Mutoko in the Mashonaland provinces bears testimony to the reality that Zimbabwe is not immune to the present-day phenomenon of changing climatic conditions bedeviling the southern part of the Sahara. As temperatures continue to soar, so is the risk of food insecurity for families who traditionally depend on the maize crop as their staple food. Studies by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, predict that no continent will be struck as severely by the impact of climate change as Africa, and true to this position, Zimbabwe's communal farmers are not spared from the devastating effects of changing weather patterns. Thus, in an effort to counter these effects, the country has introduced a cocktail of measures in its rural areas, such as drilling of boreholes, construction of dams, establishment and rehabilitation of irrigation schemes and community gardens, as well as introduction of adaptive drought-resistant crops in dry parts of the countries such as Chivi, Chiredzi, Buhwera, Gwanda, Wange, Rushinga, Mudzi and Mutoko to alleviate the devastating effects of the present-day catastrophe of climate change that the country is experiencing. One way of responding to this continental crisis is the wider adoption of small grains such as sorghum, rapoko, cowpeas and millet in Zimbabwe. The model was introduced as a measure towards proofing rural livelihoods from these adverse effects. But what is climate change?
Climate change these days is one of the issues that everyone is talking about, simply because it has got serious implications on human and socio-economic development. Maybe the starting point would be for people to appreciate what weather is and then what climate is. Weather is basically the condition of the atmosphere at a given point in time and at a given place. Whereas climate are the average weather conditions you would expect to get in a given area. So to sum it up, usually weather is what you get, climate is what you expect. So with climate change, we're basically saying there could be a shift in what you normally expect to get in a given location. And that sort of affects planning, that affects development, that affects a number of human and socio-economic activities. Just to give you an example, an area might be expecting to receive in a given year 500 millimeters of rainfall per year. Now we're saying with climate change, you could eventually be getting less than that amount. Or you might actually say you expect your rains to start around about mid-November. And over time, you become so used to that sort of date as the onset of the rains. But with climate change, we're saying all that is bound to shift. And so climate change encompasses a shift in a number of climate characteristics that we are normally used to as far as planning purposes are concerned.
The increasing frequencies of climate extremes, particularly droughts and the shifting rainfall patterns, are a major threat to the economy and the livelihoods in Zimbabwe's rural communities. The amount of rainfall received in these dry-prone areas is sometimes inadequate to meet basic household consumption, as well as support livelihoods and agricultural practices.
If you look at Zimbabwe, there are quite a number of areas in the country that do not naturally get much rainfall, like the southern parts of the country, which are mostly natural region 4 and 5. Now, for such regions, there are certain crops that are better adapted to those conditions, and small grains are some of them because they belong to the grass family. And if you look at a crop like pearl millet or munga and shona, with 250 millimeters of rainfall in a season, you can actually get a good harvest. Whereas with maize, for that amount of rainfall, it is almost impossible to get anything. Actually, the crop will be a total write-off. A crop like sorghum, which is also in the small grains family, also thrives under low rainfall conditions. And one of the advantages with small grains, because they are the grass family, is that should you experience a dry spell, which is prolonged, like what happened in January 2018, they can die back. But the moment you get rainfall again, these crops, they start to come back to life, which does not happen with a crop like maize. So we are strongly encouraging farmers, particularly those in low rainfall areas, to shift to some of these small grains because they are better adapted to erratic rainfall patterns like we are now getting.
For years, families from these drought-prone parts of the country rely more on food handouts from the government or non-governmental organizations.
Kuya kwakaita program yema small grains kuno kurushinga sezvo iri nzvimbo inopisa zvakaita kuti nzara tirwisane nayo nechikonzero chekuti panguva yatange tichirima zvinhu zvakafanana nechibage taigara tine nzara gore rimwe nerimwe tichibatsirwa neWFP, but pakauya small grains kuno kurushinga zvakaita kuti dambudziko remari raderera nechikonzero chokuti vanhu vakwanisa kutengesa vachisayirwa nechimwe chikafu chinenge chiri mumba chikwanisa kuraramisa mhuri dzavo zvasiyana nemararamiro ataita kare.
If the current situation is worrying, then the 2020 forecast for Africa should be more worrisome, as the continent's rain-fed yields are expected to be significantly drawn down by a margin of 50% due to climate change, according to research by the United Nations Environment Programme UNEP. The impact on the overall performance of the agricultural sector is going to be massive, given that this is a sector that employs the highest number of people on the continent. This existential threat of climate change therefore calls for a more rapid response that will cushion the farmers from the impending droughts. One way of responding to this continental crisis is the wider adoption of small grains such as sorghum, rapoko, cowpeas, and millet by small-scale farmers.
Mbeu iyi taona kuti yakakodzera kurimwa area ineyi nekuda kwekuti mvura ishoma, ende mbeu iyi yakaratidza kushingirira kwayo mukurarama mukati mezuva. Saka isusu takaonawo kuti sinzi mbeu iyi ine shungu dzekuti irarame izotiraramisawo, takaona kuti zvitori nani kuti ipe rudo. Izvi zvanyatsotiratidza pachena kuti mbeu iyi ndo inokwanisa kutiraramisa kuri kuno, ndo mbeu inokwanisa kupedza nzara.
The initiatives have proved to be the panacea to food security for many households in drought-prone areas of the country where the effects of climatic change are distressing.
Like last year, ndakarima mashaundi wanga kanyanya. Saka ndichitarisa kudaro mvura yakanaya ikaita. This year futi mashawa nditori nayo akuna ingi mvura yakanyanya. Saka small grain yayo like inonzi chi mashawa anditi ano resistor zuva kuchi unotozongenda uchita sei uchitoita dani chibage chikaoma chese nofunga ndikasara ne 6 clients heads
zimwe zvinhu zvakazisina kana repair hapana kana muda wakanga achinde bamanda chibage chogucha baya kungasambochiona atombodzeka chibage chogucha atombochizibho rinorese zvakatsva minda yese mmere wekutanga wese wakatsva wese wechipiri wacho ukazopfa futi hatisina kana chibage kana asi mashawa ashingirira kare taimboti mashawa haana mhuru dora chibage nazozwa kuti tatokundikana. Mashawa chinhu chakanaka kurima mukati meminda yedu, hatipindane nenzara bodi chibage chatinongovavarira ichi chinokasika kurohwa nezuva. Shava rinoshingirira kuti muraramise mhuri. saka ndoanza kufanana nePFDW yakati zoti pambeu iyi yemashawa emasiya aya ndanzwa kufara zvikuru dai zvikaamba zvakangodaro neso dzidza tadzidza panapa nemadhumeni edu kuti tiri mashawa aya taudozvitoone kumba next year tifunga chana zvakapfuura ipapapa.
We look at small grains as crops which have huge potential in this country to address the issue of food insecurity. As you know, most of the dry regions in this country are not very suitable for maize production, and we don't have varieties which are drought tolerant, particularly in these dry regions, regions 4, region 5. The alternative crops which are more drought tolerant or resilient are small grains. We are now working in about 21 districts where we are promoting the production and the increased utilization of small grains. And these cut across many districts because I think many of the smallholder farmers had really adopted maize, and the diversity of crops which they've been growing have really narrowed so much, such that when the droughts actually occur, many of the smallholder farmers' households are food insecure. And we think this is not a tenable situation. We need then to increase crop diversification so that that becomes a risk aversion measure against droughts or climate change, as it were. And we have promoted a number of small grains where we are getting some of the foundation material from ICRISAT and also from crop breeding institutes.
In these areas, these legumes have not only supported families through guaranteed food stocks, but have also created opportunities for women, thus covering the gender gap that had been visible in rural communities.
Tikatengesa, tikawana mali yedu, tikawakisa imba yedu, tatoene imba yakatonaka. Saka izvozvo mari yechikoro tikabhadharawo futi, saka izvozvo tinototi zvakatinakira chaizvo. Tikatosala uno imwewo mari yatakatoshandisa pamba pedu.
Ini zvakatondibatsira because ndakatokwanisawo kubhadharawo kuchikoro, ndikatodyawo mari yacho, ndikatonakirwawo noupenyu kwenguva yacho, zvakatonditira. Saka ndinongoti aiwa siri kure pamberi nayo because ndakatondisimudza kuti mazuva itoto ndaitonakirwa ndikalife because kamari ndandinako. Nansi takamirira kuti ndichapiwa mari nemurume kana kuti ndichaita sei. Mari kangu ikako ndichitongozviitira upenyu zvitongoenda.
Zimbabwe has the capacity and scope to have a full-fledged small grain production system, but this has to be accompanied first by a shift in attitude by farmers and more funding support for communal farmers.
Ndikureva kuti patakadyara nyemba idzi taitarisira kuti nyemba dzedu dzichafa nekuda kwekuti kunopisa zvekuti takaona kuti zvinhu zvinowirirana nechinokupisa kwedu zvekuti dai zvinhu zvakanga zvakafanana nechibage nekuti zvingadai zvakafa but patakadyara isusu musi wa27 na 28 February mvura haina kumbonyatsonaya asi zvaikuramba zvichingokura chete zvakanaka zvokuti ndikukurudzira kuti mukufamba kwenguva ichi chirimwa chakanaka chekurima.
We need to adopt a mix of adaptation strategies as a region when it comes to climate change. But generally predictions for Southern Africa as far as climate change is concerned are that we're going to be experiencing drier conditions. And I don't think that is very surprising because naturally most of Southern Africa is inherently a dry or semi-arid region. So these projections that we are most likely to be drier in future, I think we need to take those projections seriously. We might still get similar amounts of rainfall, but we could be facing serious challenges in terms of how that rainfall will be distributed in time, which I think is very important for agriculture. We've been experiencing a lot of intra-seasonal dry spells, some of them very long. For example, 2018, I keep going back to 2018 January, almost the whole month was totally dry. And in some cases, the dry spell started in December and went all the way to the end of January. And that's really very, very harsh conditions. And to make matters worse, we are also going to experience higher temperatures. So when you've got higher temperatures, it means crops are going to lose more water into the atmosphere. And once that situation happens, you need more water to keep them going, yet that water might not be there in most of the times. So in terms of our adaptation strategies, we need to be aware of some of these most likely climatic scenarios in the future and plan accordingly. Small grains are going to be part of the solution, but not necessarily the full panacea to the problems that we're most likely to face. We also need to invest in irrigation development, although increasingly water is going to be scarce. But I think there are quite a number of strategies we can take to make sure that we are water secure as a region, so that we can support our energy generation, we support our agricultural development from an irrigation point of view. We also need water for industry, for livestock, and a lot of other domestic purposes. Even our own sanitation will also require water.
Therefore, this grim outlook calls for leaders and relevant stakeholders to think around issues on how to appropriately plan and manage the impacts from the current increasing temperatures.
Saka kuti kuri kunzi mari iripo mungada ere kuona nyaya dzakaita sezvema irrigation kana zvekuchera kwemadhamu zvichipinzwawo munharaunda medu.
Tingafare zvikuru nokuda kwekuti mukada kuona imimi kuti pamashawa aya taitsiga mugomba tichidiridza line by line, mumwe nomumwe achidiridza line by line, but kana tawanawo vanhu vanotibatsira saizvozvezvo chikumbiro chokutoti tikabatsirwa kana kuri kuridiridza zvinhu izvo zvinofunga zvinotowedzera uwandu hwazvo kudarika pazviri izvozvo.
Saka ndiri kuudza dai takaramba tikangomira chiro chese masabhuku akati munhu ega ega pamusha arimo munda wemashawa kuti tegopindwa nenzara nyika yedu neimudzi. Ndo zvandiri kuudza dai sabhuku isa akati mamba akati sabhuku ega ndati munhu arimo munhu akadai sewomashawa nzara ipinde muno mukati memudzi. Saka dai zvikamba zvakadaro.
The government of Zimbabwe and developmental partners have been on an aggressive campaign encouraging smallholder farmers to diversify or completely adopt small grains which can cope under dry weather conditions.
We have a long future in terms of mitigating food insecurity and malnutrition. Even if you look at the nutritional value of small grains, some of them have very high nutrition. Take, for instance, finger millet. They have very high iron content, potassium, calcium, which is very good for lactating mothers, for the old people. You don't need to take supplements of calcium tablets. You just have to eat more of finger millets. And we need to this crop. I think it's a wonder crop. Many people don't realize the value, nutritional value of this crop. But when you look at bioculture, our forefathers had a lot of information. This was one of the crops which they depended on so much. But I think we need to increase support on the research, processing, and also marketing of finger millet, because it's a crop which has a lot of opportunities, and we need to step up efforts to increase production. It is also resilient to climate change, and I think it doesn't require a lot of inputs in terms of fertilizers also, and even in terms of rainfall.
Yet communal farmers still plant maize, which is not suitable to current climate changes.
Nokuti pandairima chibage ndatisingakohwe asi pandikazongotanga kurima mashava aya aiwa ndakakova zvisingaiti nokuti ndakatenga zvinhu zvakawandisa ndikabhadhira vana vangu chikoro ndakatenga mombe panguva imwe chete.
There are, however, notable success stories from farmers who have heeded this call to shift to the more drought-tolerant varieties.
Pari zvino asati atengesa chatoti tikatopura totengesa humwe tisati first yedu kuti mashava aya. Saka tikarima mashava tikapura tikamesa kuti aita mabhegi mangani chaita half toisawo kuhomwe yedu yemari half topawo mhuri kuti dzirarame.
We are saying, just looking at the statistics, area of put to small grains over a period as from 2014 when WFP started this program in partnership with Agritech, it is increasing on a yearly basis. And that is an indication that farmers are adopting the production of small grain as an alternative crop to maize, which is failing.
At the apex of these positive strides in small grain farming is the story of a 43-year-old partially blind farmer, Yamurai Chorova, who has seen an opportunity in small grain farming through support by the World Food Programme in partnership with Agritech, and now is able to supply his family with food where previously he was dependent on handouts. His story captures the benefits that small grains have presented for communal farmers across the country. Elsewhere in the Chapinduka community in Rushinga, villagers are benchmarking their successes through small grains, with many now using the crop to settle school fees arrears.
Kuti mulimi warima semalimiro atandakaita kurapira kuti munhu wani unogona kuita kana kuti 5 tons kana kuti 3 tons uchiona vatengerwa matani ako akadaro aiwa zvanochibatsira nekuti tine vamwe vangu vasina zvipfuwo mumwe akagona kuti zvandawana mari yakadai chega ndichitengawo mombe yandaishuvira kuti ndive naye pamba vamwe vangu vane 3-4 years vachikundikana kubhadhara mari kuzvikoro pakauya program yeshiri kure chikoro chakati we accept nyangwe zvirimwa zvacho isiri mari saka zvakarerukira vanhu vakawanda seini ndakatobhadhara vana vangu 3 ndichibhadharira chikwereti che 2 years saka zvakandifambira ndikazotosara neimwe yandakazotengesa WFP yandiri kushandisa seshuga kutengawo shuga nokuitawo zvimwe nezvigaro.
After having found our parents struggling to pay levies, then we sat down as SDC, and then with SDC committee, and then decided on how we could alleviate this problem by trying to use the few resources or the kind of resources which they had available. So when we talked to the parents, to those who were willing to pay using the small grains which they had just harvested, they found it to be a very pleasing idea because it was, to them, it was just a simple thing.
Indications on the ground show an impressive trend by communal farmers in sustaining the levels of production for the crop. With the national yield at 0.5 tons per hectare, some farmers are hitting double the figures, in the process guaranteeing food security for their families, while also having surplus income to cater for their daily needs.
Mudzi is one of the districts that lie in the marginal rainfall, and because of that now, farmers here, they've tried maize, and maize has proved that it is not an ideal crop for this particular district. But however, the coming in of our extension programs now as Agritech being supported by the World Food Programme, we are capacitating these farmers to adopt small grains such as sorghum so much that they can improve their livelihoods.
Access to food is a basic human right according to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 2 of the SDGs states that end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Apart from fulfilling SDG goal number 2, the introduction and adoption of small grains by the smallholder farmers in drought-prone areas of the country, the government and its partners is also fulfilling the rights of its citizenry.
Vana vacho zviri kupa utano nokuda kwokuti vana nyangwe ukazvibika nyemba idzodzi vanotodzifarira saka zviri kutotibatsira zviri kutoti tatoona kuti nyemba idzodzi dzakatotinakira chaizvo mukurarama kwedu.
To achieve maximum impact, we strive to strengthen the linkages between the activities under the CSP. This also means increasing impact not just for SDG 2, but for broader sustainable development. The SDGs, as you are all aware, endorsed by every UN member state and recognized to be universal in their application, fully recognize that an achievement of zero hunger, in particular, is only possible through a common parallel investment in initiatives that address root causes, resilience, and acute needs concurrently.
Thus, small grains are the next possible solution to future food security in Zimbabwe and Africa as a region, thus helping to fight hunger on the continent in the face of changing weather patterns.